In chapter 7, we come to the famous 10 plagues against Egypt. The first 7 verses are the Lord's reply to Moses' despair at the end of chapter 6. Once again, Moses highlights his own lack of eloquence and asks why Pharaoh should listen. The Lord reassures him, instituting a chain of revelation. God will speak to Moses, Moses will speak to Aaron, and Aaron will speak to Pharaoh. Moses himself will be like God to Pharaoh, and this, apart from the plagues, is as close as Pharaoh will get to God. The Lord also confirms that Pharaoh will not listen, but this is not a failure on Moses' or Aaron's part. This is the doing of the Lord, who will harden his heart, so that God's signs and wonders might be displayed in the land. Before the plagues begin, there is a scene of testing. Pharaoh asks them to perform a sign. The snake was a very significant symbol for the Egyptians and was worn on Pharaoh's crown. It could either represent the goddess of Lower Egypt or chaos itself. The fact that Pharaoh's magicians could replicate the wonder is a surprise to us, but they will not be able to keep up with God for long. As it is, Aaron's staff swallows theirs. For the Egyptians, this meant Aaron's staff was victorious and absorbed the powers of their snakes. An ancient Egyptian text, for example, portrayed Upper Egypt defeating Lower Egypt as one crown swallowing another. Moses and Aaron are in the middle of a dark battle with masters of the occult. But this sign, before the plagues begin, already shows who has the greatest power. The first plague turns the Nile into blood. Whether this was actual blood or had the appearance of blood from algae and red earth is not known. The Bible just says blood. The point is that it was undrinkable. God had struck the thing that the Egyptians depended on. The magicians can also do this trick, and Pharaoh simply goes home. A week passes. The next plague is that of frogs. It is natural that frogs would desert the waters if they were clogged with dead fish. However, the magicians could do this trick as well. But instead of going home, Pharaoh recognizes that this has its origins in God. He asks Moses to pray for them, which he does. Some scholars find naturalistic explanations for some of these plagues, which are not unreasonable. However, these plagues occur when Moses predicts, and his prayers are effective in removing them. There is something more than nature at work here. A different verb is used now in verse 15 for Pharaoh's heart hardening. This time it is made heavy. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there is a judgment scene where the heart is weighed on a balance. On the one side is a feather which represents truth and justice. If the heart is light, then there will be a happy afterlife. If it is heavy, it will be devoured. That Pharaoh's heart is increasing in weight signals his doom. The third plague ups the ante. Now there is a plague of gnats, but the real escalation is that the magicians cannot replicate this one. They tell Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." Jesus is possibly referring to this in chapter 11 of Luke's Gospel, when he refers to his own ministry of exorcism and the arrival of the kingdom of God, which it represents. Later we will see the law written on tablets of stone by the finger of God. Pharaoh's own magicians tell him who he is up against, but Pharaoh ignores them. The fourth plague brings another difference. Now God distinguishes between the Egyptians and the Hebrews by sparing the land of Goshen. The flies do not touch them, and we do not read of any attempt of the magicians to replicate this one. God is not only gradually revealing his potency, but he is also showing on whose behalf it is being exercised. The pain will now be focused exclusively on Egypt. It appears initially to work. Pharaoh grants them leave to go, even after some negotiation to leave the land. But as soon as the plague ceases, his heart is hardened yet again. The plagues thus far have been extremely unpleasant, but worse is yet to come.